Mr. Elliott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this, and indeed the opportunity to be able to bring this motion forward at a very timely stage in the process. And obviously, we, or the UK Government, Her Majesty's Government in the United Kingdom, are bringing through the legislation to have a national crime agency. Clearly, we believe in the Ulster Unionist Party that this is vital to the entire crime organisation, to fight the entire crime organisation, not only within the United Kingdom, within Northern Ireland, but indeed internationally and right throughout the entire world. This is a fight against serious and organised crime. And I know that here in Northern Ireland there have been attempts, or at least I am informed there have been attempts, to have a legislative consent motion brought through the Executive, which has failed. That to me is very, very costly to Northern Ireland, very costly to the fight against that crime and that serious international crime. And no one, no party, no organisation should oppose the legal and honourable methods of reducing serious and organised crime. And I will listen with intent from those who may want to put forward their views as to why they would want or try to inhibit the fight against such crime and criminals, not only in Northern Ireland, but right throughout the world. Okay.
Grateful to the member giving way, and I'm grateful to him for giving way so early in his proposing the motion. And I rise to my feet to ask the member, given the context in which we're debating today, would he agree with me that in Northern Ireland, set aside from the rest of the United Kingdom, that crime and criminality and terrorism are closely related, and indeed crime and criminality often feeds financially that terrorism?
I thank the member for that, Mr. Speaker, and quite clearly in Northern Ireland there has been a history of terrorism and criminals often being linked and being one of another. But this isn't just about terrorism in Northern Ireland. It's not just about the dissident terrorist threat in Northern Ireland. This is much wider. This is about international crime and criminals. This is about the drug trafficking, the people trafficking, the smuggling, the serious organised crime and the paedophiles. That is the type of crime that we're talking about by and large here. That is why it is important that the people of Wales and Scotland, and indeed the Republic of Ireland and England, have every right, much right to protection as we have in Northern Ireland. But on the other hand, that is why we in Northern Ireland have as much right to that protection as they have. And that's all that I'm asking for, and that's all the Ulster Unionist Party is asking for. We are asking for equality, and that equality should actually help to cut out this criminal activity. I can tell you, and I'm very, very surprised to see a motion tomorrow by Sinn Féin on the regulation of social networking websites. Maybe surprised, but I'm glad they're bringing it forward. But they're bringing it forward on the background of, I'm assuming, opposing this bill. Opposing this bill that is actually going to help to fight the exact things that they're bringing forward tomorrow. So I'll be interested to hear why they're opposing this proposal, opposing this legislative consent motion, but still wanting to bring their own motion forward. I just cannot understand that. It's quite... Okay.
Could it be because, in the words of my Member of Parliament, Mr Ian Paisley, that there are those in government, he seems to say, who wish and desire to keep their hands in control of these matters because they have their hands in the pie of organised crime? Who does he think the Member of Parliament for Northampton was referring to in the context of the Northern Ireland Executive? Who might it be that has their hand in the pie of organised crime?
Well, I thank the member for that, Mr. Speaker. And that's obviously an issue that he and his Member of Parliament can have a discussion about, and maybe more openly tell us in here who they're talking about, as opposed to have me second guess. I don't think any of us need to look too far to assume who he's talking about. But look, there is a responsibility on all of us here to support and protect the citizens of Northern Ireland. And I can only assume that there is a lack of confidence from those people who want to oppose this legislative consent motion, who want to oppose a national crime agency in Northern Ireland having jurisdiction in Northern Ireland. I can only assume there is a lack of confidence from those people who are opposing it in the policing and justice system in Northern Ireland, a policing and justice system that they helped to bring forward. So that is a severe lack of confidence. And I have to be absolutely open and blunt about it. I actually think it's an emotional nationalist Republican Green agenda, rather than just, sorry, and not the Green Party, a Green agenda that's being brought forward by them, where they just cannot accept anything that might have a hint of Britishness. And I'll give way in a moment. They can't accept anything that is just British or national here in Northern Ireland.
I appreciate Mr. Elliott giving way, and to save him his rhetorical flush for the remaining 3 minutes, can I say to him that this is not a debate about whether or not there should be a national crime agency. That's not the debate. The debate is whether or not, when it operates in a devolved framework, that it should be as accountable as the PSNI is today. In other words, that when we have PSNI officers that we hold fully to account through the policing board, and we have potentially national crime agency officers, that they should be held to the same standard of accountability, one which I believe his party and my party have fought hard for 15 years to protect and defend, and I trust he will wish to continue to protect and defend. So this, sir, is about accountability. It is not about some fantasy of yours which appears to be about your politics.
Well, if anyone knows anything about rhetorical speech, it's our last speaker from South Belfast. I think he certainly opposes it. But I can tell you, what about the accountability? Mr McDevitt, through you, Mr Speaker, what about the accountability? There have been concessions, God, I understand, from the Minister here, from Her Majesty's Government. Concessions that actually means that the Chief Constable is still the senior officer, that the National Crime Agency will have secondary position to them, that it's accountable to the Police Ombudsman. What more do you want? Do you actually want it that it's of no use at all to Northern Ireland, that it's of no use at all to the public here? I have to tell you, I think that's what Sinn Féin and the SDLP want, because it is accountable, and there have been concessions given from the organisation to allow it and to accept the more delicate nature of policing in Northern Ireland. And I listened to your colleague, Mr McDevitt, sorry, I didn't listen to him. I read a statement sitting there beside you, Mr McGuinness, a statement. And he actually indicated Scotland is wise to oppose this move. We should do the same. My understanding is there is actually great cooperation from the government in Scotland towards this. They are actually going to implement it, and they are supporting the proposals along with Her Majesty's Government. And if you're very quick, Mr McDevitt. Yeah.
I've not long left a meeting with the director of the proposed NCA, and he was the first to admit that all the so-called concessions are not in statute, and that he can't make a commitment that they would go in statute. So therefore, I'm afraid, Mr Speaker, what we have is promises. What we need is law.
Okay.
Mr Speaker, I too attended a meeting with the Director of the NCA, and one thing he made very clear to me, and I hope Mr Elliott will agree with me in respect of this, not one single officer of any proposed NCA operating in Northern Ireland would have the powers of a constable. Therefore, the Chief Constable of the... Sorry. I know what I heard the director of the organisation say to me, that he would not have the powers of a constable, and therefore he would report to the policing board and through the Chief Constable of the PSNI.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And like always, I'm much too generous with my time and generous with everything else. But I will finally say this is about protecting people in Northern Ireland, protecting people throughout the world. I support it, and it's time others had the confidence to do the same.
Paul Gibbon.